Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Antiheroes Anonymous, or welcome for the first time if it's your first time joining us. I'm Ethan, and I'm the Dungeon Master for this 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons campaign. And we're back after several weeks. We'll just, real quick, have the players go around the table and introduce themselves. We're down one Mara Stormwind, but she'll be back next week, hopefully. So, Nick, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I'm Nick. I play Thaddeus Hammerlock, a human vengeance paladin.
I'm Kay. I play Harmony, who's a wild magic sorcerer tiefling. It's like, what's the word?
Line.
Ah,
Who do I play now? It's been 3 weeks.
It's been so many. What's a class?
I'm Zach, and I play Hunter, who's a Warforged Fighter Ranger.
So, a couple quick announcements / regular talking points, and then we'll get into a recap and then get started. We stream on Twitch every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and then post those episodes to YouTube the following Wednesday. Throughout the show, we use a variety of custom items, as well as a custom wild magic table, which our resident wild magic sorcerer makes good use of. Our music comes from various sources, such as BattleBards, TabletopAudio, and Incompetech. And then our lovely character portraits, which you can see in the top right corner of the screen, and you also saw on the starting screens, were done by an artist named Carrie Peach, who you can find on Twitter, and she's a wonderful artist, as you can see. And then if you're watching us on Twitch, you can check the channel page for links and info about pretty much everything I just mentioned and more. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, you can check the video description for similar information. And then if you want to know, for example, when we're going to be canceling a week or things like that, you can follow us on Twitter at AntiheroesAnon and keep up with us there. And if you missed that just now, there should be information in the description / the channel page, so you can go find that. Other than that, we hope you enjoy the show, and we're going to get right into a recap. So, the party learned of the Vampire Alkene's scheme to seize the Raven Queen's memories in an attempt to claw at a position in the pantheon of the world. Or at least that's what Thaddeus' goddess Esanahin feared might be his scheme. Then, at Melora's temple in Redwater, the group managed to pick up a couple of passengers for the journey. They've got Eli, who is a sort of an angelic lineage sorcerer, and Dawn, who is a cleric of the god of the sun. They then arrived in Ravenmoor and went into the sewers. Upon arriving in Ravenmoor, they discovered that a Medusa queen of the Yuan-Ti named Queen Ixlati had been enslaving citizens to build up a pyramid in the center of Ravenmoor. And so they went into the group went into the sewers to find Alan, a orphan who they'd met before, and found that he was helping refugees there. In those sewers, they managed to defend the refugees from a group of undead while also assisting in a very troubled birth, which was very exciting. And then the next morning, the group went to the Temple of the Raven Queen. But upon entering the temple, they were met with their old nemesis, Kuor, who was originally an undead mind flayer who they met a while back in the capital city of the continent, and then later reappeared in a Warforged body. Anyways, he was back again, and Thaddeus leapt to engage him in combat after rejecting his offer to help them sort of free Ravenmoor for his organization's own purposes. And now the wounded antiheroes are left alone to search the temple. So I will put on some music and then re-describe the scene since it's been a while. Okay. Okay, so you had stepped into this vast open chamber that is the Temple of the Raven Queen. And it's sort of this rectangular hall that extends forward, maybe maybe 100, 150 feet downward, or not downward, forward, with these barred doorways along the side, which you peeked into and learned that there graves and memorials in there of various family names. Some you recognized and some you didn't. The room is similarly lined by pillars supporting the high vaulted ceilings of this very Gothic architecture cathedral. And right now you're sitting in the middle of that room, kind of before an altar with four doorways on the right and left sides of the altar. Sort of just with your only light source being the sword that Thaddeus has lit, as well as the mace that Dawn has drawn, which both shed moonlight and sunlight respectively. And other than that, it is just eerily silent.
Do you have a light cantrip?
No.
Okay.
I don't need it
Eli
because I
does.
have dark vision.
That's right.
Eli speaks up and says, if we need a little more light, I can provide some.
Couldn't hurt.
All right, I just need something to cast it on. What do you think would be a good idea?
I hold out my staff.
Okay, yeah, and he mutters a quick prayer / incantation, and a soft blue light appears at the tip of your staff, sort of illuminating a little bit more area.
Oh, now you can go 3 ways instead of 2. Where do we want to go first?
Dawn can actually also cast the light cantrip. So seeing Eli do that, she'll cast a sunny yellow-colored orb of light onto maybe Hunter's sword or something like that.
Or the shield, yeah.
So now the area around you is pretty sufficiently light. Dawn and Eli doesn't raise his hand. Dawn raises.
Mara as well, yeah.
But you guys had shiny swords.
Dawn
So really just you two.
There was also an old man who you rescued just
Matthew?
before coming into the
Oh,
temple.
that's right.
Or, is it Matthew?
I can't remember his name. But he kind of sees you all preparing to explore the temple, and he says,
It seems the danger's past now, so I'm just going to sit in the corner like Sir Hammerlock advised earlier, if that's all right.
and he kind of
Good
goes to
idea.
venture off into the darkness, and then looks back.
Do any of you have a candle or a torch or something?
You are. Okay.
Are there any torches on in the building?
Yeah, if you sort of like go to the sides of the walls, you can see that there are sconces for torches, but there's no torches in them at the moment.
Yeah, I've got torches I never use because I have a sword that glows, so I'll give him one. Now I'll look at Harmony. Do you mind?
$10.
You don't have the what's the
I
cantrip that
can't
you
create fire. I can manipulate it, but I can't create.
Firebolt!
That's how I
Oh,
normally start
well,
fires.
Isn't it? I thought all these ones had. Was it thaumaturgy?
Can thaumaturgy start fires?
Yeah, you can light torches.
I think so.
Oh.
Maybe. Thaumaturgy can do a lot of random things.
Yeah.
I didn't think it could do that, or I would have been doing this whole time.
Well, we already have you for other, starting fire purpose.
Do you want to light the torch with thaumaturgy?
I mean, I have my tinderbox out already.
All right.
I don't know if it's a thing I can do,
You cause flames to flicker, brighten, dim, or change
but
color.
not light or
But yeah, there's nothing about lighting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, you're right. I thought you could.
No, that's a different spell. But I have a tinderbox.
Yeah, and once that's lit, he just kind of takes it to a corner.
As
I'll
much
get
as
it.
I'd
Sits
like to
down.
firebolt it while you're holding it, because that would be really funny, and also I'm still mad at you for picking a fight we didn't win.
We were close.
Farah says, we were fine.
I hand Mara my stuff. You need this more than I do.
Take it. And then she kind of like looks to the group of you and says, well, should I set Pinky to work and just follow him? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, Mara, Pinky was with the enemy. Are you sure we can trust him?
She shrugs.
Is that how I got Pinky back?
Yeah.
That
He was with Cord.
I want to take a close look at these elven statues you talked about.
Well, right now the two elven statues they're in kind of the alcove off to the side that is closest to the front of the chamber, on the left-hand side, and they are currently behind a locked metal
I
gate.
thought we were looking behind the different
Yeah, we were looking
ones.
like through bars.
Yeah, you're looking through
Yeah,
bars.
yeah,
There are
okay.
bars sort of blocking the way into these
I can't remember
alcoves.
what we found back there, or if we found anything.
You just saw that there were 2 statues, essentially.
In this room, but not behind the bars.
No, behind the bars on this
Oh.
left-hand side in one of those alcoves.
Oh, they were graves.
Yeah,
The
they're all.
different family names and stuff. I remember now. Okay.
And then the closest to the front on the left-hand side was the one special one, in that it had, instead of a series of
Right. Okay.
like nearly 100 graves or something like that, it had these 2 statues of Donovan, labeled Donovan and Esmeralda.
Right. Yeah. Let's take a look at those.
Yeah, we can't get access to them. I think like we can go and look through the bars, but we can't get to this.
Well, what if Mara tries to pick the lock?
Mara just walks over to the lock and inserts the thieves' tools. Just like in like 2
We're not even
seconds,
making rolls.
the lock just falls
Alright.
off. I rolled an 18,
Oh,
so
okay.
she's got it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, what did we determine what the worst she could do was?
So,
Well, I think that-
9 plus.
9 plus 10, so 19
Yeah,
is like the
19
lowest roll.
or something.
What do you have her sheet, by the way?
I think she has it.
Okay.
Did she
well,
put it on the?
no, she hasn't.
Okay.
Should get her to do that.
But I know that the worst she can do is a 10 plus
Yeah.
9.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Yeah.
Okay, so she unlocks it.
Yeah, and the door just kind of. The other gates kind of look like their hinges might be a little rusty, but these hinges look actually pretty well oiled, and these bars don't look in the same sort of like state of degradation as other parts of the temple.
Mhm.
And you saw that the statues inside look a bit more immaculate as well.
Yeah.
And so the gate kind of swings open soundlessly, which is almost eerie in its own way.
I want to go look around the alcoves.
All right, roll an investigation check.
I rolled it.
Okay. Well, do you want to help or what's your investigation?
My investigation is plus 7.
I'll help you then.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll help you.
I got a 22.
22. There's not necessarily much to see in there. Back in the alcove that held the graves of the Cranston family, you could see that there were some graves in there that actually had like flowers and things, wilted, but the families in there are clearly recently deceased enough that people are still bringing them things. But in this alcove, there's really actually nothing. You kind of like go in, feel around the walls, take a close look at the statues. There's nothing in here except for the statues. But as you get closer to the statues, you get the very clear impression, just by looking at the detail that went into like chiseling their muscles and their faces. These were 2 very noble and prestigious warriors of some kind. You can tell that much.
Okay. I use know your enemy. I'm just
I mean, you spend time looking at it, and these statues have no class levels.
HP. Okay, so I would just say there's really nothing much to see here, but
Yeah, it makes
except
sense.
these immaculate statues.
Do you want me to move them?
You could try.
Let's say
What
that-
if there's something under it? Like
Eli
trapdoors?
speaks up. Do we have to be worried that someone out there might see that as desiccating this temple? I don't know.
I mean, we can put him back.
Let's say that for later.
I can just see if they're like hiding
I don't mean to
something.
deter something that might be a possible good plan. I don't know.
Okay.
Never mind.
Well,
What did I say?
Something like this thing that we're looking for isn't going to be in plain sight.
Are they?
Or
if I-
in, even
no,
in
you're
one
right,
of the
you're
rooms that are obvious. So I'm expecting to find some kind of a hidden chamber underground, much like the one that was in the temple in Redwater.
No, you're right. But be careful.
Let me try.
I mean,
Let me try first, and then so I'm gonna just try and move
Try
it.
and move it.
Yeah.
Physically, like
Yeah,
try and
physically.
push it. Yeah.
Okay.
Roll an athletics check.
I can just use my magic to move it. I
I
don't want
got
to hurt
a
it.
26.
26. The statues are very. It's like they are made of the same stone that the floor itself is made of. They're like perfectly flush with the stone, but you push on them and you can see that, or you feel that if you push much harder, you're going to start breaking stone of like the arms and limbs of these
Okay.
statues.
So they're not actually
But they're not budging
separating
at all.
from
No.
the floor. Okay. They're not part of the floor either, right?
They seem to be like connected to the floor.
They are
almost
connected
like
to the floor. I'm like, yeah, these aren't gonna. We're gonna break something.
That's my idea.
No, it's a
Look
good.
for a rug or something.
It's a good one.
There's a long black floor runner that runs the length of this temple, from the entranceway. It's maybe like 10, 15 feet wide. From the entranceway down to the pedestal that holds the altar as well.
I use my mage hand to like lift up a corner of it like this and look under.
There's a line of dust, you know, like at the edge of the tapestry, but you don't see anything
I
else.
straighten my sneeze.
Suspicious.
As you drop the tapestry, the floor runner back down, the dust flies up.
Ugh.
I'm gonna go look at that podium. There's like a podium in the center with an altar carved with ravens.
Yes, and then from standing at that position, you can see clearly that there is a door on the left wall, a door on the right wall, and 2 doors set into the back wall, the same wall that the altar has. But standing up on the podium, you can see that the altar is, like you said, it's carved with ravens, and it's the feet of the altar seem to be bird claws. But there's nothing particularly remarkable about it other than that. Why don't you go ahead and roll an investigation check?
Okay. 17.
17. Yeah, you find this part along sort of like the back side of the altar that, I mean, it just doesn't match the rest of the patterns of the altar. Like, it seems to be like a break from the carved ravens and things like that. And it's just these 4 indentations into the altar. There's 3 sort of up top, towards the top edge, and then 1 underneath it.
I'm gonna call the rest of them, but I think I found something. Looks like there's something missing from this altar. You see the breaks in the patterns here.
Does it look like the talons of a bird or something?
It could be,
It's
yeah.
it's feet.
Like the separation matches like.
It's bird's feet, or is it just ravens?
The, what?
I'm trying to read your notes.
The altar itself is carved with
Yeah.
pictures and depictions of ravens and things like that.
And it looks like something's missing.
Yeah, you see here, 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 and here, the pattern is off, and you
Yeah,
can
there's-
see it's a little bit recessed.
Mhm.
I think something goes here.
I take out my mummified crow's foot. This?
And you sort of like, what?
Try and match it up into it.
Try and line up the
Just jamming it in the wall.
like the back part of it. I mean, the back part of it is too big for the holes that are here.
The talons.
The talons?
Yeah.
One of the silver talons, like the bottom silver talon, slides right in.
Oh, look, guys!
Oh,
I didn't think that was gonna work. There had to be a reason that crazy guy gave it to me, though.
well,
Other than
Just the
him
one
being
though. The
crazy.
other ones don't.
And then yeah, as you kind of position, I mean the talons of this claw aren't like fixed in place, so you have to kind of like
Kind of work them in a little bit.
Move 'em?
Yeah.
But as you move them into the right positions, they are able to line up, and all 3 of the front talons go into the same holes.
I push.
Yeah, there's like a clicking noise as that bit of stone recesses a little bit, and that's what happens.
I start twisting it.
Turning.
Hey guys,
It's a
look.
slow turn. Like it takes a lot of force, and you have to kind of put a little bit of effort into it. But it turns slowly, and when it does, when it has turned a full circle, and that bottom talon is at the top, and the 3 top talons are at the bottom, there is a sound from behind you as there's like another grinding of stone, and you can see that the area of wall directly behind the altar pops out a little.
So
I did a thing, you guys.
good work.
So we're at the
Don't look so
podium,
surprised.
looking into the
Good work.
like courtyard area that we were in, right? Or what would you call that?
Yeah, sort of like the main entryway.
Okay, so we're looking into the main entryway from where we came, and then the wall behind us. Okay, got it. All right.
So sort of like the
Kinda like
front
paint the
wall
picture.
behind
Uh-huh.
the altar
Okay,
is what sort of popped out a little bit.
got it. Okay, cool.
Almost
Nice
like
job.
1 brick's worth kind of popped
Can
out.
I take the crow's foot and put it back in my bag?
It seems to have like locked in place.
Okay, so I can't turn. Well, I guess it's gonna stay here.
It did its job.
It served its purpose, I think.
Shall
We
we?
can take it with us when we leave, I guess.
Yep. We shall.
Boys first.
Yeah, I'll go in first.
Yes, I'll go ahead.
Okay, so you kind of like feel along that wall that popped out. It's actually now like moved a bit of stone outward onto runners, and it will slide aside.
Okay.
And you slide that aside, revealing a entranceway into a small room. It's just like a very small semicircular room, and in the very center of that semicircle is a trapdoor in the floor.
I told you there'd be a trapdoor.
I thought you were right. I agree with you every step. Why are you?
I told you.
Okay, it's fine. You were right.
You didn't want me to move the statue. You thought it was crazy.
Well, obviously it wasn't under the statue.
Yeah, but I had the right idea.
Yeah, and it's over here.
Which I said. It was a good thought.
Oh, stop talking. Let's go.
Mara kind of holds up a hand and just goes up to like look at the trapdoor, and then after a minute of inspection, just kind of flips it open and looks down. She's like, "It's dark in there."
Right.
You have my staff with the light on it.
She holds it down. Like, the light extends a little ways down. She's like, "There's a ladder going down into darkness."
Alright. I'll
And then she kind of steps back and gestures.
I'll
to
start climbing that line.
Yeah, I'll
I've
follow.
got a sword for the light.
That's not gonna bite us in the butt. Sending the two people who don't have dark vision down.
Got a light. Got a huge light.
So, boys
It's got a
first.
big, obvious light.
Well, you guys can take a hit at least.
Yeah, we're at half HP.
It's a slow ladder climb down, considering you have to use
Yeah.
one hand because you're continuing to hold the sword down and look downward for light.
Well, no, I have my on my shield. That's built in.
Well, yeah, but Thaddeus still has a sword.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And it's just a really long ways down that you have to climb. The ladder seems to go on for an eternity, and in reality, it's maybe just a few minutes. And finally, the ladder descends into a vast, roughly rectangular, but more naturally carved, less stonework shaped room. And you can see that there are blue flames that burn atop sconces set into the walls every few feet. And their light seems to be reflecting off the surface of a long pool of crystal clear water that runs the length of the room. And it creates sort of those watery patterns of light flickering across the high roof of the chamber. But that isn't necessarily the first thing that draws your attention to the room, because the remainder of the room that isn't filled with the pool is filled with clutter of all kinds. Just chairs, mirrors, broken weapons, furniture, and other objects that you can't even make out at this distance that are just big and small,
Junk.
all heaped together in piles of varying sizes and shapes around the walls of the room.
Weird.
So yeah, some of it looks like junk, and then you see things that are like more like well put together, like noble looking couches and things like that.
But it's all in just heaps.
Yep. It's just piled across the chamber at varying heights.
Does it resemble the thing that Braxis was eating?
I mean, yeah, to an extent that was just a pile of magic items that
Okay.
I was chewing on. But
Okay.
Are a lot of the items out here like shiny?
some of them are.
Okay.
Which ones?
We'll get to that in a second.
The
I have
shiny
three more
things.
things to describe to you.
Alright, sorry.
You can see also that above the piles, branching out into other tunnels, seems
There.
Really happy.
to be hey, no chill. There seems to be like a spider web network of dark natural tunnels branching off, sort of maybe halfway up the. They're at varying heights, but most of them hang around like halfway up the chamber walls.
Tunnels.
As Thaddeus,
Did you say
said-
spiderwebs too?
No, just
Yeah.
kind of like a spider web network. So it's just like there's tunnels coming off in all angles, basically. Is what I mean by that. Thaddeus, as you set your foot on the floor, there's a bit of movement from one of the piles near the ladder, and a small figure who seemed to be lounging on a moth-eaten sofa set atop one of the nearby piles sits up, and as you set foot there, and it turns slowly. It's slowly. Hi, boys.
There you go. Now, go. Stay out there.
They're not usually this bad.
No, they're anxious. They're anxious.
It turns its creaking wooden body towards you, and you can see that it seems to be.
Did you say wooden body?
Yeah, it seems to be a marionette almost.
Oh.
But it has this black feathered head, which is that of a raven. And as your foot hits the floor, it says to you in this bored voice, "The Queen welcomes you to the Library of Bones and Memories." And then he reaches back up onto the sofa and grabs what looks like a parchment folded hat, and she insists you wear this. And he extends it down towards you.
He just takes it and like puts it on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're now wearing this like folded paper hat.
Wait, just paper?
Yeah, like parchment. It's just folded
That's
into.
great.
So like a newspaper hat. but
Yeah, yeah.
basically just
Yeah.
a parchment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you can see now that he's like pulled that one off the couch. You can see he has a pile of those. And as the rest of you set foot on the ground as well, he just one by one extends the same greeting to each of you. "The Queen welcomes you to the Library of Bones and Memories, yada yada. She insists you wear this hat." And he extends a hat towards you.
Take one, put it on Bianco. Take one, put it on me.
Wait, can I prestidigitation it a different color?
Yeah, you certainly can.
Sweet.
What color would you like your hat to be?
I would make it red.
Okay.
Be like I'm special. Mine's red.
And then once each of you is wearing a hat, he nods and just kind of like climbs back up his pile and sits on his sofa and like rests his head on his hand, just kind of watching.
Are
with
you
his
a librarian?
No, I'm not a librarian. I'm just, I don't know what I am. A guide?
I thought you said a guy.
A guy.
I'm just a guy.
Just a guy.
That's funny.
I'm gonna cast detect magic.
Okay.
Did I make good berries today? If not, I would make good berries.
I don't know.
And pass them around. So if I didn't already, then you guys can have an assortment of good berries. And same division that we did last time.
I usually have 2 good words on my sheet unless I
2.
specifically use one.
You can have 2.
As you cast Detect Magic with the wand and look around, there are several bits of glowing magic throughout the room. Many of them seem to be sort of in farther away piles. There's none really in your immediate area, but you can see some maybe at the very edge of the glow of your Detect Magic spell.
Are we free to just look around as we please? Is there some kind of a system here, or can we just explore?
No, there's no system for checking out. Just if you need something, go ahead and look around. It's fine. If I can help, I will. Yeah, I'm compelled to. I'll do it. But
I'm making a beeline for the nearest magic object.
okay, roll investigation check.
Okay.
I'll help you.
For this room in particular,
Do I need help though? I'm the one that can see them.
yeah,
Oh, that's great.
I'm going to change things so you can actually help each other, but you can roll an investigation check of your own if you like.
Sure.
Oh. 5.
5?
16.
Okay.
You think I'd at least be able to find something that's glowing?
So with a 5, the first magic blip that you go for, you grab for it and it's really tiny, and you hold it up and it looks almost just like a top, like a toy top, and but it's glowing faintly with magic.
I'm bringing it to Thaddeus. What school of magic?
What's the one? Transmutation.
I bring it to Thaddeus and I say, "This one's magic," and I like dump it in his hand, and then I go back to look for something else.
Okay. You rolled a 16.
Yeah.
You make your way to the nearest pile and begin to dig through it, and I need to hold on. I forgot a table. I need to pull up. Just give me half a second.
Sure. What am
Would
I?
you roll a dice and tell me if it's odd or even?
Any dice?
Yep.
School of Transmutation.
Even.
Okay.
Do you want to pick a number between 1 and 10 now?
Nope. Oh, sorry. What dice did you roll?
Hmm?
What dice did you roll?
A 20.
D20?
I changed how it worked. I need you to roll a d6 and tell me what number it is.
5.
5. Okay.
Now roll a d8.
Now roll a d8 and a d12.
Divide it by 3.
3.
There we go. Where's the table?
Divided by 3 would be 16 thirds.
Now multiply it by the half of your last.
The first thing that catches your eye is a PDF that is taking a long time.
A PDF?
What sorcery is this?
Is this email?
This is it. If anyone can read a PDF, it's Hunter.
Yeah.
Um,
I found something digital, guys.
the first thing you pull out of the pile seems to be a walking cane with an iron tip, and as you pull it out, you accidentally scratch the iron tip against the stone of the cavern, and sparks go flying.
Oh, okay. And then, so seeing Harmony, what she did, I also go to that and say, this is magic.
Wait.
And I walk back.
Is it though?
As you turn around and you hear that, and you turn around and look at it. No, there's no magic.
I go over and I take it and I throw it back in the pile.
What?
It's not magic. I'm gonna go look for another glowing
At
thing.
this point, you notice that Mara has like vanished into the pile of things. She's just gone.
Excuse me. What?
Can
Yes.
while
What can
you
I do
talk-
for you?
Can I just continue my hunt for magic?
Yeah, I think the same thing.
Okay.
Something around.
What is your name?
If you must know, it's secret.
Okay. Secret. What is the difference between a bone and a memory here?
Well, the librarians keep the bones, and I watch over the memories. And he gestures to the piles. He says, "These are the memories."
We're looking for a specific memory or ritual that the Raven Queen wants performed.
Well, if you're gonna find it, this is likely the place to do so.
Ah.
And he kind of just gestures to the room. He's like, "Have at it."
Alright. And
Didn't you have that spell you could use, Fatty? As I'm like digging through piles.
What about that thing?
oh yeah, Daddy's takes out the bell and rings it.
It echoes
Still
throughout the
holds the
chamber
top.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
As it echoes throughout the room, you've got the top on one hand, the top falls to the other side, but nothing seems to happen else.
This place is called the Library of Bones and Memories?
Yeah.
Is it Bones and Memories or Memories and Bones? I always forget. Bones and Memories.
Bones and Memories.
I can imagine Secret saying that in character.
Yeah, I always forget. Is it Library of Bones and Memories, Memories and Bones? Is it even Memories? Is it Recollections? I have no idea.
Customer service?
I think Daddy just puts the top on the ground and spins it.
Yeah, and despite the even ground, it spins flawlessly. Or the uneven ground, sorry.
Like, what?
It spins flawlessly, and it almost just seems to keep spinning endlessly.
Alright. Well,
What else did I find?
What was your investigation check?
5.
5?
But they're glowing. Come on.
What do you... What
I
do we
should
do?
have had advantage.
Do we have any idea what we're looking for exactly?
memory of a ritual, but
I'm just trying to
one
take
of these
all the
things, I
magic
think,
things.
these are the memories according to Secret.
Okay. And do we have any leads on what this thing might resemble?
No.
Okay.
The next thing, Harmony, that you pick up.
Daddy is not holding your 7 more. He's going to look at you now.
Oh, there you go.
The next thing that Harmony picks up is a what looks like a moth-eaten maroon rug, but it glows faintly with, again, transmutation magic.
Take it.
As you grab onto it, the rug, there's a flash of sparkling magic, and the rug seems to completely restore itself. All the holes that were eaten into it seal up, and its color is restored to a brilliant red. But then you look down and you see that all of the cloth dress that you're wearing becomes moth-eaten and its colors dull.
Oh,
And the magic fades from the look.
well. That's unfortunate.
Were you wearing your fancy dress?
No,
Oh, good.
just my normal clothes. Just my normal clothes. I was like, do I have mending? Nope, I don't have mending. I don't care about fixing things.
You don't mind. Let's take a look.
I'm just like, oh. Well, I bring it to Thaddeus and I just throw it over his head and then I go back to
This is magic.
It's magic, or it was.
Eli doesn't know many.
Tears it off and replaces the hat on its head.
Yeah.
You see Secret give you kind of like a nod of approval. He's gone back up to his couch and begun folding hats again, it looks like.
I'm just
Thaddeus, you said
spend
you were joining the search?
Yeah.
Roll an investigation check.
the next 10 minutes of my
Great.
oh god.
What's
It's
the
a
tell?
+0, 1.
Okay. Thaddeus, what you find.
I'm guessing it's just piles of what we found.
I mean, yeah,
That
as
is
your
like-
friends are basically digging through piles and throwing things on you, what you managed to find
I can't carry all this.
is a carved wooden smoking pipe of some kind. It's got like a long like pipe to it that ends in a curved end.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a tobacco or something like that, smoking pipe.
Harmony, is this magic?
No. God, you guys are bad at this.
What did... Can you refresh my memory of what the Raven Queen looked like when I saw her?
She was like twigs and branches,
Yeah,
right?
she was. Most of her body seemed to be like a raven's nest, like a
Yeah.
series of twigs interlaid into a female shape. But I believe that
Her head was like a raven skull, wasn't it? Or am I misremembering?
I think it was. I'd have to
Yeah, she
go back
was
and
actually
reread my
had-
description. Something was different about her head, and then she had like black feathers in her cape that she was wearing. She was wearing this like black mantle.
I definitely wrote a lot of this down.
I thought I drew a picture.
Did I find anything else worth
Oh,
bringing to Thaddeus?
So in this
that's
room,
what I had written
you can
down.
roll a total of 3 investigation checks.
Okay.
I'm gonna see if I can find that silver mask. That kind
Oh,
of
just a
I
silver
only rolled
mask.
one investigation.
I know. I'm about to let you roll another one. But unfortunately, digging through the piles takes quite a while, and a lot of the magic things you pull up are small enchanted things, like that top. So that's about the extent you get out of it.
How much time does this take? So how much time does this take?
To like dig through the piles? Quite a bit of time.
So
it's
can-
just, this room is like maybe 80, 100, 120 feet long, and it's just piled with things.
Can Diaco take a short rest while we're digging through stuff?
Yeah.
And okay, use some hit die. Okay. Do that. Okay.
I just imagine him like
Like
lying
looking at
down
wounds.
next to the entrance, licking his wounds and taking a nap.
Yeah.
They're like just staring at the top.
Yeah, just kind of like.
So Thaddeus, you're specifically looking for.
That silver mask that she was wearing in my dream.
Roll another investigation check.
It's 2 1s.
That was another one?
No.
It's 11.
Oh, okay.
That was
Double
not. That was not the right
Double
way
one.
to say
Well,
that.
that puts you on a different table. Would you also roll? Well, I'll just roll this for you, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll tell
I'll
you.
roll whatever you want me to roll.
Let's see.
The next thing that you pull out, it's interesting. This one must have some kind of magic to it, because despite the fact that it looks like it's near the bottom of a pile, you sort of get really deep into a pile. You pull out an intact bouquet of like funeral flowers that seems to have still a fresh smell to it. It just looks and smells fresh. So it must have some kind of magic to it. But despite the time you spend digging into this pile, you don't find anything that resembles a silver mask.
Go ahead and do your roll, because I want to talk to Secret again.
Well, so one roll was good for 10 minutes worth of the spell, basically, is what you're saying. So my question for the group is, do you think the thing we're looking for is going to be magical? Is it worth spending my last charge of this to cast it again and look again?
I don't. These are all memories. I don't think that
It's
it's
not necessarily magical.
not necessarily.
So what
Well,
what exactly, you haven't really told us anything other than we're looking for a memory. So like what, we don't even know what to look for.
As you guys are sort of having this conversation about what you should be looking for, you hear a flapping of wings, and out from one of the tunnels that intersects this chamber comes a black bird of some kind, and it drops.
Raven?
Yeah, a raven, and it drops a small object into one of the piles, maybe 30 or 40 feet away, and then flies out one of the other tunnels.
What did it drop?
Roll a perception check.
Alright.
8.
13.
16.
16. Harmony, you could make it out.
Dark vision for them.
It looked like,
A paper hat.
since it was sort of barely within, did I say 60 or 30 feet?
I don't think he said.
He didn't say.
Well, we'll say it's within the range of the light, so you can kind of distinguish color. It's like this series of small white stones or something like that. It was 3 or 4 small objects that had dropped onto one of the piles.
Little stones.
They were very clearly white. And
Can I
color.
scoop them up with my mage hand?
Yeah, as you pick them up and get a look, what am I rolling in? Shoot, I already lost it. Oh, there it is. You can, and you bring it close, you can see that it is a set of dice, actually, and it's made of bones of some kind that are just starting to like
Do
yellow.
I recognize them as belonging to a certain dwarf that we once knew?
No, these ones, Nazria's dice were much well kept. They were kept a lot better.
Okay.
These ones are like the bone is starting to yellow and things like that, so they don't look like the same set.
I have a couple of questions for this group.
Mhm.
One,
If you want another hat,
no.
I've got plenty.
This hat sounds good. I'm taking good care of this hat.
Okay, I'm gonna keep folding another one.
Ellie Street.
What's this water?
That is the pool of recollection or recompense or something like that.
That may tie into my other question, which is how do we find out whose memories these are?
That's a good question. No idea.
All right, I'm gonna like hold this bouquet of flowers and like put a hand into the water.
Okay. As you dip your hand into the water holding the bouquet, you see sort of a flash of vision before your eyes. Like you momentarily leave the place you're at, and you find yourself in a moment in your past. What this pool causes you to experience is a moment of strong regret or other powerful emotion. So what do you see?
Proof. I think I'd probably go back to the banquet and my failure to, like, I think I tried to connect to Gavin there, and I failed.
Yeah.
Like when I made that persuasion check.
So you see that moment flash before your eyes, and you see Gavin's face harden in resolute disinterest in your attempt to persuade him, and then you see memory flash again to that moment in the Feywild where you again tried to persuade him, and you saw him waver a little bit, but then eventually his face came back to that resolute visage that you know him for. And then, once those two memories have flashed before your eyes, your vision flashes again, and you see a little girl. And you seem to be, you're seeing from a higher perspective, and you seem to be holding her hand. So you might be a parent or another adult in her life, and you're standing before a funeral casket, and you are holding also a bouquet of flowers in your hands, the same bouquet of flowers that you seem to be actually holding in real life. And you reach to put those flowers in, but the little girl kind of looks up at you and just says, "Wait!" And then as she reaches for the flower, she touches them, and there's a brief flash of magic, which then disappears. And then she says, "Okay, now you can put it in the casket." And the figure whose eyes you're seeing out of sets the bouquets on top of the casket, which has been lowered down into the ground and out of sight, and then your vision flashes back, and you are sitting inside the pool of recollection again.
Well, I know how to access these memories now.
Are you okay? Because you look really, really sick there for a second. I thought you
Yeah,
were
he
gonna
almost
upchuck all
was
over that.
like teetering on the edge of the pool as if he was about to fall in full.
And
I thought you were gonna do a face plant.
in retrospect, I maybe shouldn't access memories of a bouquet of funeral flowers.
We can try the other objects now, I suppose.
What we're looking for, and I think that is like quickly glancing toward the shaft to make sure that like we're actually alone here.
Roll a perception check.
16.
16. From one of the shafts at the very edge of your vision, you see a pair of yellowish eyes reflected off of the light of your sword, and then as soon as it seems to make eye contact with you, it backs away into the darkness.
Message Thaddeus.
Yeah.
Just be like, we just talk like this.
Okay, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna message.
Everyone individually.
This is gonna take a minute. We're looking for the ritual of Raven Queen's ascent into godhood.
Do you have any idea?
And I'll repeat that
Anything?
to Harmony, Mara, and Dawn,
So
and Eli.
sorry, it's
Well,
a
Dawn and
ritual.
Eli don't have the.
Oh, that's right. It's just.
Well, I can do it
So-
for them
Okay.
because I have the spell,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's an artifact of the ritual,
It's a memory.
a memory of the ritual. But memory would be connected to something that was
An object.
right.
If we find the
Do
object
we have any
connected,
leads on what an object like that would be?
I'll message this information to Eli and Dawn.
Do we have any, like, is there like, can I roll like a religion check or something? I mean, I probably wouldn't be the right person to do it.
To sort of see what might be associated with this.
Maybe, I guess? Like, what,
Yeah,
there's any common items that they use? Like,
roll a religion check.
I don't know if I'm the right person for this.
what's your religion score? Is it more than +0?
It is. I got 5.
5.
So I probably know a lot of the Elderhaven Regis stuff.
At this point, you know that like ravens are a solid bet. That's pretty much all you've got.
Asks Bianco.
The tiger kind of looks at you.
Wait,
Quirks,
no, go
it
ahead.
just tilts its head to the side and kind of rubs its ears against you and purrs.
This might be a bad idea, but Hunter,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe Harmony, you can catch one of those ravens.
How often are they flying through?
You've only seen one so far.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I wonder what would happen if we touched water with a hole in one of those.
Not
I don't
sure.
know. Okay, but I'm gonna message Eli
Mhm.
and say, do you know anything about the Raven Queen's ritual, to godhood ritual?
It says, no, as far as I knew, the Raven Queen was always a goddess.
I don't really know anything about mortal gods.
I'm gonna.
Mortals gods.
The only goddess I ever really was taught about in my temple was Melora, so
Makes sense. And I look at Dawn and I just go, she's not
Dawn
gonna know.
is kind of like
I know what her
scratching
religion
nose
score
a little
is.
bit, like, looking around.
Thinking like, huh.
I know what her
So I'm
religion
gonna ask
score is.
secret. Where's the library?
Well, I mean, this is part of the library.
Where's the rest of it?
The librarians keep the bits in the tunnels.
Can we
Like I
visit
said, this is my domain for whatever the heck that means.
Can we visit the other
Wait, what are the
areas?
other domains then?
The bones part.
So this is the memories part.
Well, I mean, the bones have to do with memories as well, but you'll see what I mean if you go there.
Let's go there.
Okay.
Okay.
So you kind of find one of the piles that leads to, or that seems to climb up high enough that you could enter one of the tunnels, I suppose.
Wait, just climb one pile of
Yeah,
junk
I guess so.
memories.
Yep. Climbing
It
memories.
feels like very much Night in the Woods, doesn't it?
Oh,
Wasn't my inspiration, but now you mention it. Yeah, you enter the dark tunnels, and it's almost as if your light still extends for the same distance, but it feels as if the darkness is pressing in on the light a little bit more as you enter into these tunnels.
Is it pressing in the like a shadow felly way, the way that like the shadows seem to move and like become grotesque?
No. And in fact, the only seemingly grotesque shadow at this point, you've sort of grown used to the fact that all of your shadows twist a little bit.
Have I noticed it by now? My
Has anyone
shadows
pointed
are
it out to her? I don't know.
I didn't notice
Well,
it.
you did, but I turned around and it was fine. Like the morning I woke up with it.
No, what happened was you turned around and you didn't really notice the difference.
Yeah.
So it's not that it suddenly became fine.
No, but I mean, I thought it was fine. That's what I meant.
Yeah, the only shadow that seems to be interesting is Harmony's, which is it's got that large demonic
And I still don't
form to it.
roll.
Yeah, I think I rolled really bad on perception or something, so I didn't really think anything of it.
Anyway.
Yeah, through the tunnels. Still wearing my stupid paper hat.
That's the paper.
The rest of you are
Hey, we
hats?
all are. We all are.
We were requested to.
Okay.
Even Gavin was wearing his hat.
Good. That will be important later on.
Did they glow when I cast my detect magic earlier?
The hats? No.
No, they're just paper hats.
Yeah, they're just paper hats.
Do they provide armor?
No. No, they don't.
I'm gonna put that on my sheet of trade equipment board.
As you make your way through the tunnels, you hear skittering sounds up ahead of you, but you never seem to catch up to it as you move through the tunnels. And eventually, you come into a slightly more open chamber. And the sight that greets you is interesting. There are a series of carved stone tables that come up out of the ground. It looks like they may have been stalagmites at one point, but they're just carved into tables. And lying on the tables are skeletons. On each table there's one skeleton. And then as you look throughout the rest of the room, you can see that there are piles of bones sort of lining the walls in a very methodical way. There's like alcoves dug into the walls, and the bones are sort of laid out in an orderly fashion in these alcoves. And let me just roll one thing.
Somehow I wasn't expecting actual bones.
Well, I mean, I don't blame you. We just came from elaborate memories, which is not what I was expecting.
What is everyone's passive perception?
Well,
So that's what.
16 and he gets a plus 12, but it's 22.
22. As you enter the chamber, Yako growls at something, and it draws your attention
Alright.
to the ceiling of the room, where you see a creature skitter to a halt and kind of lay flat against the ceiling, trying to blend in, which is why the rest of you don't notice it. It's this gray-skinned, roughly human-sized and human-shaped creature. But it has like these extra long arms, and it doesn't seem to be wearing any clothes or anything like that. And its arms all end in like kind of wicked-looking nails and things like that. But the weirdest thing about it is that it has this like gray chin beard that comes down a little ways, and then pointed, way more pointed than like elven ears, but like very pointed, almost fiendish ears. And then its head extends backwards in this like bulbous shape. And I'll show the stream a picture of these guys, and I'll show you. That's what they look like. You guys can see they look like this. But right now, Hunter's the only one who spotted this creature.
So I'll
because it lays flat against the ceiling and then like extends those wings that come out from its back, almost to cover it and make it look like a natural rock.
I'll just like shoulder Thaddeus and I'll like point up there with my I'll gesture up there so you can look at it too.
I'm gonna. Do I see it?
Yeah, when Hunter points it out, you can see it, and then now that you begin to look around the room, knowing what you're looking for, you see 3, 4, maybe 5 of these in this chamber alone.
Can you use Divine Sense?
What does Divine Sense tell you?
The location of some stuff. Celestials, fiends, and undead within 60 feet.
Yeah, you're certainly within 60 feet of at least one of them, but your divine sense doesn't return any indication that any of those creatures are nearby.
Well, it's not a devil, it's not a demon. I don't know what it is.
Should we enter?
Looking at
I'll point.
the rocks.
When they're pointed out, you can see the vague shape of like wings with hooked talons at the end.
Do I recognize them?
No, I don't think you would.
I'll walk in and say, hello?
You see that one of them kind of lifts the wing a little bit to like look down at you, and when it sees that you've spotted it, it drops from the ceiling and extends the wings and slows its descent as it lands on one of the tables, sort of its long, lanky arms and legs on like either side of the skeleton that is laying there, and it just kind of stands there looking at you,
Are you a
Tilts aside.
librarian?
and it nods.
Well, we made it to the library.
And as this one drops down, the other 4 or 5 that are in the room drop down and sort of assume similar poses and begin to like slowly creep towards you. And as they move, they're very silent. They just kind of like creep across the ground using their arms and legs.
I think I'm gonna sheath my sword, even though it puts out the light. Because we got a few other light
Yeah, we've
sources.
got sources.
Is there other light sources in the room, or is it dark?
But just to show it that like I'm not being hostile.
There are no other sources of light in this room that you can see. Dawn also takes your lead and sheaths her mace, but Eli kind of looks at her and says, I don't like the looks of this. This doesn't seem okay.
They're responding, so
I hold his hand.
We
Yeah, he squeezes tightly.
were sent here by the Raven Queen.
As it gets up very uncomfortably close with you. Like this at your foot right down below you, and then it stands up to its full height. And when it stands up to its full height, unhunched, it is maybe like 7 feet tall. So it towers above you a little bit, and it kind of
Like
looks
my
down
eye.
at you. And it says, well then, by all means, go about your mission. Who are we to stand in the way of the Lady of Fate? He gives her like a low bow.
Where is the? We need the memory of the ritual.
The memories are kept by secret back in the other chamber. I'm sure you saw them. We are keepers of the bones, and he gestures to the other creatures who have actually sort of warily gone back to their work now that this one has engaged you. And you can see that they are, with their long fingernails, carving into the bones. And if you kind of like peek around the one that's in front of you, you can see that at the closest table, the skull is untouched. It doesn't have any runes in it. But you can see that all the other bones which are laid across the table seem to have etchings into them of some kind.
Do these
like a language, or
You can't really tell from this distance.
do these bones contain no memories?
They do contain some, but those are for us to keep.
can I get
Yeah.
closer to one of the tables and look at the?
Yeah, the one that is standing in front of Thaddeus kind of gives you a side eye, but he lets you get close.
Okay.
But he then sort of turns his head around as you get close, like next to the table, and says, "Be sure not to disturb my work.
And I'll put my hands behind my back.
The librarians would not be happy if you were to ruin one of our. There's a word I'm looking for, like something that is under your care.
Our charges?
One of our charges. Yes.
I want to lean in real close to this thing. Just like I'm trying not to let anybody else hear.
He leans in close. What do you say?
Do you let him?
He touches your arm.
I don't know.
He extends his wing for you to touch. Do you touch it?
Oh god.
Oh, that was
My
a good
memories! Regret! Regret! Oh, that's what I see in the pool!
Oh my god.
I'm gonna ask you, do you have Inase's bones?
Theater voice. Theater voice.
Yeah.
Where's
Do
mine?
you have Inase's bones?
And he tilts his head to the side and he says, "That particular goddess is not dead."
All right.
And he kind of resumes a squatting position a little bit. So he's still looking up to you. He like backs off and kind of squats and says, "But your group intrigues me. We have not seen many of your kind." And then he kind of chuckles. He says, "Well, living members of your kind down here for many years. I would be happy to be of service to you if there's someone you wish to speak with." And he gestures to the bones behind him.
Wow. Why are you both looking at me?
I'm just kind of looking around.
I wanted to give you a chance to speak.
Ah.
Yeah, say
So
it.
what did I see at
Yes.
the table?
Oh, right. What languages do you speak?
I speak
He speaks pretty much everything.
Common, Dwarvish, Sylvan, Draconic, Binary, and Key.
The languages, it does seem to be some kind of language. You know that much because you have that linguistics chip in your brain.
Yep.
But it's not a language you're familiar with that is carved into these bones.
So I recognize the script. At all? Something? Okay.
I'm gonna ask if Esmeralda's bones are here.
Ah, yes. We interred her bones many, many years ago. I believe that one of my fellow librarians could find her.
Did what to the bones?
Interred them.
Interred? Oh,
I thought he just said you have a linguistics chip.
I know what the languages are. Doesn't mean I'm good at any particular one.
So it would be. I think we could learn something from Esmeralda.
Okay.
And he kind of looks back to one of the other ones. Let me see if they have a specific thing. Nope. He looks back to one of the other ones and begins to speak in a language that I don't think any of you understand. What language is this, Thaddeus?
Elven and Common. Let's see. And Celestial.
Okay, in Harmony.
Common, Infernal, and
So none of you know
Does
it.
Don or Eli know it?
No, I know for sure they don't. He speaks in a language, and the other one climbs up the wall and into another side tunnel and disappears into darkness.
These guys have yellow ones.
They do, in fact. Yep. They have kind of large tennis ball.
These things,
Yellow eyes.
These are the eyes that you saw in the other
Yeah.
chamber.
Would I think that?
I mean, it seems possible.
Okay. It could be. Which is a relief, frankly.
And he kind of, the creature is still sitting like hunched, and it looks to the group of you and it says, "Will I be seeing some of your bones someday, perhaps?"
I don't know. What are the criteria that we'd have to meet for our bones to end up here?
Well, we've collected the bones of every citizen of this city for thousands of years.
So can I give
Many
it
who are buried within its graveyards find their place here.
Interesting.
Well, if we're lucky, then no. But you might be seeing our bones in the next week or so.
Shame. I've heard about some of you from some that I have spoken with. And he looks at you, Harmony. I hear that you have much fire within you.
But I know who you were talking to. Come on, Eli, let's go look for the memories.
And Eli's like, who is he talking about? What do you mean? What did he mean?
I'll explain later.
Dawn kind of chuckles.
I'll explain later.
So where are you and Eli going?
We're
Bones.
going back to the memory room.
Okay.
I want to keep looking for memories.
Hunter, are you staying here?
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, he said that. Once he said that they have access to all the bones of the. Is it just the people that were within the city walls?
He just said anyone who's
buried
buried.
in the city.
Okay. So I'm just been kind of thinking about, is there anyone that I would want that would have information I'd want to talk to?
The only person you know who has, the only people you know who have really died within the city that I can think of
Talk to Tal.
are
But he
the
hasn't been
Cranstons. Yeah, you've seen Tal's body, so he
Oh, okay,
clearly
so
hasn't
he's
been
not
interred yet.
Buried.
Yeah, the Cranstons.
Cranstons.
Potix, perhaps?
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
Um,
Potix might have a question for you.
you could also ask if they know someone who might know a specific thing or have
Yeah,
a
I
specific
guess we
set
could
of
sort of probe
skills
them.
that you could talk to.
We also know that the Ward and Straustow families are important and have been buried here.
could ask them too.
You guys have fun with that. I'm gonna go back and look in the memory room. So
Okay.
Okay.
With Eli.
After a long series of moments, after Harmony leaves, the creature kind of lapses into silence and just sort of like sits on its table watching you as the rest of its compatriots kind of work on behind it, chiseling into these bones. And Thaddeus, if you get any closer, you can recognize that they're actually writing in Celestial on, they're carving in Celestial into the bones of the skeletons that are on the tables. He just kind of sits on his table and watches you from his hunched position.
And I'll
I'll message Thaddeus from the other room.
Yep.
What if you try to find someone who was alive when Raven Queen had her ritual? Someone who would have memories of it.
yeah, I was gonna ask if we could keep her for the temple or something.
I don't know
Maybe
when
talk
that
to them.
was, but I
We could ask the librarian. Yeah.
Yes.
You ask him that?
Yeah.
Okay. He says, you're looking for ancient bones at this point. But perhaps you might have something. And he kind of looks to another one of them and says another string of words, and that one climbs up the wall and into another tunnel and disappears. And it's only a few minutes more before the original one that he sent off comes back, and it's carrying under its arm a skull that looks to be like human shaped. I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell like elf, half elf,
Yeah.
or human from a skull.
It's all in the card.
So it's a roughly human-shaped skull, and the creature crawls out and places it on one of the tables, and then says, "And what would you have me ask?"
This one's Esmeralda, right?
Yeah, this is Esmeralda.
And then the other one, before you can answer that, chimes, like it sees you open your mouth, and then it sees you about to speak, and then it chimes in before you can say anything, and it says, "We librarians don't always help, so be sure that this is the one you wish to ask questions of."
Oh, I see.
How many questions do I get? Asking the librarian, not Esmeralda.
Asking Hunter, who asks Bianca.
Let's see. The questions you may ask number a total of 5.
Per skull.
Nods.
Okay.
And after a few more minutes, the other one comes skittering out with another human-looking skull, and sets it down on the same table. So there's now 3 skulls and a pile of bones on this table.
So we
and
have,
it kind of goes back to its work then.
we have Esmeralda and what's her name? Donna?
An unknown.
We didn't get Esmeralda.
Oh, okay.
You ask for someone who might
Oh, I see.
have been around
Okay.
in the ancient times of the world when the Raven Queen became a goddess.
And you brought 2?
He brought 1. So there's Esmeralda, there's the one that was originally on the table,
Oh, okay, the original
and then
one.
there's the one that may know something about
I see.
that time period.
So what I've got for Esmeralda, I think we can like put our heads together first, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Decide what you would want to ask.
Why were you buried in such esteem here? How did you serve the Raven Queen?
Okay.
What else do you think we should ask Esmeralda?
Do we know anything about Esmeralda? Or just from what we saw in like the plaque and stuff?
We know that she's like
A noble?
a noble warrior.
Or was a noble?
Yeah.
And do you... Okay.
And her grave was like the only really, really well people.
Antechamber and Donovan, whoever that is.
We could also ask why the graves are located in the Raven Queen's church, palace, temple.
Yeah, church or temple would be appropriate.
I figure we can ask the librarians that.
Okay.
So the librarians have told you that they are in charge of anyone who is buried within the city area.
What would be your question? Was like,
why the nobles' graves are located here instead of like on the estate somewhere or something? Why they're located in the temple specifically, behind, like barricaded and segregated. Let's see. We could also ask.
I mean, we could just ask, do you know anything about
The
the
Raven.
Raven Queen's ritual?
Yeah, could ask pointed plate. That would probably be good. Good use of one of them at least.
Or instead. Sorry.
I mean, Harmony can contribute. Like, they could send you a message saying that they need questions to ask. So feel free to contribute to them.
Well, I
Yes.
was gonna editorialize your question so that we don't get answered. That's all.
Okay. So just say like, what do you know of the Raven Queen? Yeah.
Sure.
That's all I was gonna say.
Like
I don't actually have anything
I'm gonna
else.
look towards, I guess, Dawn, because she's still here.
Mhm.
Also ask, what do you think of, like, giving any questions that we might want to ask?
She thinks for a second, and allow me to think for a second.
Yeah, sure. 'Cause I don't
Send a
know if it
message.
matters.
Maybe ask about Alkene.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Could ask about
Message to-
vampires.
Huh.
Do you know about King?
Okay.
What do you know about the UNT?
I don't think she. Well, she might because
The
they
UNT
they
used to
live
rule
here.
here.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the UNT. I wonder, because we don't
But
know
they
what,
meet here.
how. Do we know how long she's been
So we
sick?
can defeat them?
I guess the ancient. Last figure.
I mean, unless we have anything better to ask. But
I'll put that on there. And what's your question? Do you know anything about? No, that's
how do you
easy.
well?
You say what do you know about?
What do I remember about the history of Ravenmore as we've come across it?
You know that there was a civilization of UNT that lived here and enslaved humanoids. Not necessarily just humans, but and that they were at some point in their history being terrorized or plagued by a vampire named Alkene, and so their warlocks banished him to the Shadowfell.
So the UNT warlocks banished Alkene.
And then later in the history, a queen arose to power named Ixtlati,
Right.
who craved immortality to preserve her beauty and grace and power forever. And so she entered the Shadowfell and was transformed by magic, by the vampire Alkene, into a Medusa, but then was rejected by her people and had to flee back to the Shadowfell, and presumably stayed there until then. And then at some point after that, the UNT civilization fell, and a human civilization grew up in its place.
Right. So something about the
Yeah.
fall of the UNT.
Or the Shadowfell. Like Ravenmore's connection with the Shadowfell.
Specifically what?
Yeah, so the 5 questions I got for Esmeralda so far. Why are you buried in such a state here? How did you serve the Raven Queen? What do you know of the Raven Queen's ascension? What do you know of Alkene? How did the UNT fall?
I think those are pretty good questions. If I was a real, I'd be impressed.
For the other 2, what do you know of the Raven Queen's ascension? What was his town called where you lived? When you lived?
This town.
Yeah. So I don't think it was Ravenmore then. Unless it was, which is also kind of interesting.
Is that relevant? It's interesting, but is it relevant?
Might be. I'll put it as like the 6th possibility. Because I don't really have to
Ultimate question.
Okay.
If we can get a bonus question.
But do you have any ideas?
I think those are good.
That's 2. We have 5.
This is for the second, for the ancient.
Oh, for
Yeah.
the ancient guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So one of those is still what do you know the Raven Queen's ascension.
What do you know
Okay.
vampires?
Yeah.
I thought we were doing doesn't roll that. Okay, so for the ancient one, let's see. How ancient is ancient exactly? We're talking about the one.
Clear. You have
yeah.
no idea.
So we're talking about one that might have known the Raven Queen as she was ascending.
Or might have been
Yeah.
alive during the ascension.
And obviously, if it's here, then it's a bone that was kept in this area.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Huh.
By the Raven Queen's servant, which is interesting because she wasn't Raven Queen yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what they know of the, like how she got up to that point of ascension too, like her, pre-ascension history.
Maybe third question is like, what do you know of Ganase?
Is that her name is a goddess or her name?
That was her name as a person.
Was it? I thought that was her, like, her. What is it?
Her sibling?
That was her as one of the Moon Sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
I
don't know for sure whether that was her name back when she was born.
That's true. But I figure it's more likely to be her real name than the Raven Queen.
Well, you could just ask what you know of the Raven Queen when she was human. Or.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the Moon Sisters.
I don't know if that's anything you answer the one.
What is it?
I want to know about her as a human so we can figure out what the memory is, right?
I think this question will get us there because all of the Moon Sisters were the same time.
They all ascended together?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something that Thaddeus knows. That was discussed briefly in one of your dreams. The Raven Queen, what you know was that the Raven Queen worked some ritual that brought all of the Moon Sisters to godhood, but something in that ritual went wrong, and the Raven Queen's memories were sort of fragmented and scattered, and that transformed her into what she is today.
Maybe we can ask like why were the Raven Queen's memories scattered?
Or what went wrong.
Okay.
But I feel like that also ties into what you know about the
That's true.
ascension
I wonder if we can talk to the bones of a librarian. These guys are gonna be hard to get.
Oh man. That's an
When
interesting question.
when Hunter suggests that the one who has sort of been fielding all of your questions so far chuckles and kind of like strokes his beard a little bit and says, "You'd have to travel far to find our bones. None of us are truly here."
I see.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
All right. What I
It
have,
was a good try though, wasn't it?
what I have so far for the ancient one is what do you know of the Raven Queen's ascension? What do you know of vampires? What do you know of the Moon Sisters? Why were the Raven Queen's memories scattered? Number 5 we don't have.
We can save that for a follow-up question.
Maybe
Yeah.
we'll get a question by talking to the first skull.
That's true.
Nick, you can think about it a little bit longer while we go back to Harmony and Eli in the other room. Harmony, as you enter, you can see one of the piles in a far off corner of the room. Stuff is like flying out of it. As Mara is clearly still digging.
I had a feeling we left her back here.
Yeah, she's back here and she's clearly still digging through stuff.
Hey Mara, did you find anything?
A couple things, yeah.
Can I
She shouts
see?
back. In a bit. Still looking.
Okay.
So yeah, you can roll another investigation.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna look for anything that looks like it might be used in a ritual.
Okay.
Because I have some knowledge of magic stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh god. I don't know which die to use. This is so stressful. Investigation?
Wait, which one of them is connected to the Raven Queen? Like one of them is. Like,
Oh
super-
yeah, you're right.
that's his
Good
dice.
call. This one.
Oh, it is?
The character is.
1. You
So 3.
yeah, you dig for quite some time.
Right. Yeah, I want to know what this was about me.
With Thaddeus sending you messages back and
Not
forth.
too much better.
I'm guessing it's because you're still holding Eli's hand or something.
Or I'm
Obviously,
just
you're, like,
distracted
really
because I'm
Yeah.
messaging.
Right.
And you're really not paying attention, so you're just throwing things here and there, but you eventually find yourself holding like a 5-foot diameter bronze gong with like a string and mallet attached to it.
Oh
I look at Eli and I go,
Eli shakes his head. Like, not here.
I go and I set it next to the door. I'm gonna bring this home.
Okay, I mean, yeah, it's like
It's
5
gonna go
foot
in the bag I'm
diameter,
holding
so
this.
it's pretty big. But it could fit in the bag.
It'll fit in. Just like later.
Hunter sneezes. He holds the bag open.
Just looks at Eli and was like,
No.
And
this is so boring.
We found him.
Can't-
Hunter, the one person Harmony will listen to.
And you can roll one more
Such a long
investigation.
journey. That was the real
That'll be
quest.
about the limit of what you can find in this room.
I can't even use Tides of Chaos because I used it last time. And it's
You
so
can just
fun.
cast a spell, right?
That's true. I'm not gonna do it.
Wait, that was a bad idea. Crap, my head is just that.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna try one more time. Six.
6, okay.
I haven't rolled above a 10 all game.
I think 6 does get you onto a different table. Yes, it does.
Yay!
So,
Not the table we need, but at least a different table.
interesting. Roll a d100 for me.
No.
Wild magic.
Wild magic, oh god. 82.
82.
Hey, roll the button.
We could ask. We could ask the ancient one about because the city wasn't always.
Well, let's roll the
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm just thinking. Yeah.
But do hold on to your thought.
Yes, I will.
You are reaching into a pile and you grab onto something that is cold to the touch. You kind of pull it out, and what you are holding is a chipped and broken pendant that seems to be carved with the appearance of a silver dragon, like it's a coiled silver dragon, and it's cold to the touch. And even though you're holding onto it, it doesn't seem like the heat from your hand is transferring to the thing. Like it's not warming up in your hand. It's just constantly
Does
cold.
it
That memory is.
look like you're not here? Does it look
You
like
say that out of here.
Mantis?
Yeah, I mean the silver dragon looks quite a bit like Mandus,
Oh,
except for that Mandus had those like shadowy patches where
Right.
shadows were overtaking his silver scales and things like that.
Are my clothes still all moldy and gross?
Yes, I mean they're not moldy, but they're just like
Tattered.
moth-eaten and like faded.
Gross.
So
Alright.
they just look really ragged.
Cool. I'm gonna go over to the lake or the pond, and
Okay.
I'm gonna say to Eli, make sure I don't fall in. Okay. I'm not really sure this is a good idea, but I'm really
He, like,
curious.
he nods and kind of like puts a hand on your shoulder as you kneel down by the pool.
And I stick my hand in there.
All right. Well, the first thing you see is something that Harmony either regrets or has a strong emotion attached to. What would Harmony see as she dips a hand into the pool?
Regrets or strong emotion?
Yeah, or a particularly strong emotion.
well, with Eli right there touching your shoulder.
It doesn't have to necessarily be like a sad emotion, or it could be anger, it could be happiness, it could be love or sorrow, anything that is a strong emotion.
What was it that happened that she was really upset about a few episodes ago?
Another midnight? Oh, no, a few episodes ago?
I mean,
Tal?
it might just be coming back to Ravenmore and seeing what happened with it.
Okay. So
Or
the
it might
flash of
be-
memory that you see is first that vista where you look out from the top of the Kenku Tower, and you see the Yuan-Ti pyramid being constructed in one corner of the city. And even though it didn't actually happen this way in your memory, you can almost hear the sounds of whips cracking from down below. And you look up into the sky and you see shadow dragons flying across the sky, and that instantly brings to mind the memory that you're here looking for Mandus, who has been taken somehow. And then your vision flashes again, and you're in the alleyway looking out into what would be the ruins of the orphanage, and you see Tal's body hanging from its position of display, where the Yuan-Ti put it to threaten the other common folk. And you're overcome by that feeling of sorrow again. but then the vision flashes, and it's a vision that's not your own, and you're kind of like looking down as a pendant is placed onto a cloak that you're wearing, and you can see that your body is covered entirely in silver armor, like silver-plated armor. And you look up to see that you are standing before a crowd of people of various races and just a very varied crowd. And you look up into the sky and you can see 4 or 5 large silver dragons gliding on the wind around the city. And in the background, you can see that there are pyramids on fire. And then you look right and left and you can see that there are several other warriors in full armor, their faces obscured by dragon face-plated helmets that you now realize you must be wearing because your vision is obscured slightly as well. And they are similarly, there are people going down the line and pinning these pendants on them as well. And then the memory cuts out.
That was cool.
You're standing beside the pool again.
That was really cool. I saw lots of dragons and warriors that looked like they were dressed up like dragons.
Well, that's pretty incredible. I'm not sure what it tells us, but
Not much, but it was cool.
maybe I should dip my hand in the water? I don't know.
Did you find something to look at?
He kind of like looks around. Not really?
Why don't you try it with the gong?
Oh god.
I'm rolling an investigation check for Eli. I'll give him 1.
So, okay, we'll do this.
Eli,
Well,
roll.
he's rolling. Who do you
Okay,
know?
so I was gonna say, I wrote it all out because I was gonna forget. Similar to how Farendale has the first floor, the old capital, ask about the description of the ancient Raven Lord, looking for like the remnants of the old city. Seeing if there's any attachments to like, oh, well, the temple actually used to be over here or something in the ancient times, or maybe
Oh, you're thinking the artifact is in that place.
yeah, maybe there's some remnants somewhere else, some ruins or something that we would need some history or
Where they're
some
where the
locations.
ultimate place.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm gonna ask, where was the largest temple here in your time?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Unless like, or if it's the same temple that we're in, like, what was it like? Like, was it? How was it different? Where were
I
things?
don't think she'll know that because she'll know what she knew then. She won't be able to compare what is now to
That's
her
true.
day.
Okay.
Eli pulls out of the pile what looks like a necklace, but the necklace is decorated with a variety of like weird metallic shapes. And as he kind of like flips through the metallic shapes, you recognize 1 or 2 of them to be holy symbols of different gods. And it's like almost a necklace of just different
all
holy
the different
symbols.
holy
Yeah.
symbols.
He's like, what about this?
Why not?
And he kind of like,
Yeah, pretty much.
he holds onto it and dips his hand in
I
the
would
water.
hold on to his shoulders.
Yeah, he almost begins to like fall forward, but you pull him back as he like kind of shakes for a minute, and this goes on for a couple minutes before he finally. He just sets it back in the pile.
Bad?
Not a good memory.
Oh.
No. There were. He shakes his head to clear his perspective and kind of rubs his eyes. There were more of those snake people, and they were putting clerics to death of all kinds of gods, and they were collecting these, and he holds the symbols back up. I don't want to touch this anymore, and he throws it back in the pile.
I'm sorry.
The other memories weren't necessarily pleasant either, but
You know, this city just hasn't really had it's had a rough history.
And you hear an aha from Mara somewhere off.
Mara?
Nothing. I think I might have found something, but I mean, give me a few minutes. She calls
Okay.
back. Sorry if you were having a moment.
So the dragon pendant thing.
Mhm.
Did you say it's like something that can hook to a cloak or something?
Yeah, it would be like pinned on or something like that.
I'm gonna go over to the librarian and say, you said something about checking things out.
Yeah, you walk over to him and you find him kind of leaning on his hand and snoring. And like the paper hat that is on his head is just like falling off slowly. You can see it.
I like push it back with my mage hand. Hello?
He like wakes with a start.
Can I check this out?
Yeah, like I said, there's no real process. You just take it.
I can just take it?
Yeah, take what you want. It's fine.
Sweet. Thank you. I pin it on the mic clip.
Just be aware, some objects in here are tied to memories of people who may still care for their memories, so we're not liable for any damages that are caused if someone comes after you because their memory was taken.
Okay.
So on and so forth. Legal talk.
Right. Cool. Got it.
Are you still wearing your paper hat?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
We all are.
I like poked holes in it for
We
my
should have given
horns.
some to the librarians. So.
Yeah, they were noticeably not wearing paper.
Yes. That's cool. I'm still wearing mine.
Yeah, I'm wearing mine too.
We'll cut back over to.
Okay, I think we got
you
10
guys.
Yeah, we got our questions.
Yeah.
So let's go for Esmeralda first.
And so the librarian picks up the skull and says, "And you're sure this is the one you wish to speak to?"
Yes.
Then he sets it down on the table, begins to speak a ancient prayer in Celestial, not to any particular god, but as he speaks the prayer, you can hear that some of the words are powerful words that evoke and summon the spirit that is tied to these bones.
So he's not praying to the Raven.
No. Huh. And the skull floats up off the table, and its jaw unhinges a little bit. And the librarian sort of gestures to you and says, "Ask away."
Why are you buried in such esteem here?
The skull slowly moves, the jaw slowly moves up and down, almost pointlessly because there's actually no tongue in there, but this raspy, dead voice comes from the skull. It says, "I once did a great service for this city." And then goes quiet.
How did you serve the Raven?
She was my goddess far before she became the Raven Queen. Several of us served her and adored her and carried out her will without question, whatever it may be. Then it all said.
Can we ask it to say the diamond in the rough?
Can you ask him what?
To say the diamond in the rough.
Diamond in the rough.
Like from Aladdin.
What is the line like? Do
Yeah.
not touch anything but the lamp.
Yeah.
A diamond in the rough. Infidels. Yeah. Next question.
What do you know of the Raven Queen's ascension?
She was once an elven queen, adored by her people, and their adoration served as the fuel for her ascension and the ascension of her sisters. But something went wrong. There were those who sought to see the ritual fail, and they succeeded in part.
You want to ask about those people?
I think we were about to. What do you know of Alkene?
She says, Alkene, the vampire, was a legend, a boogeyman to the UNT before we slew them. They say he was a vampire of great power. Thanks,
Thanks,
Cheat.
cheat. No,
She's
it's
like,
just
"Oh,
adding another layer to your like raspy voice.
Alright,
So that was 4 questions? Or 3?
yeah. Now, for a fifth, do you want to still ask how to do Antifa? Because Chant just said we slew him.
Yeah, I
Or
would
do you-
rather
or
ask
do you-
about
yeah, you wanna ask
sabotage the
yeah.
ritual.
Yeah. Who sabotaged the ritual?
A group of elven mages who plotted against our queen and wanted more power for themselves.
Yeah, unless she's got more, that's my last question.
As the skull finishes speaking that answer, its jaw returns to the closed position and it drops with a clatter down to the table and stands still. And then the librarian picks up that skull and hands it to one of the other ones, and then picks up the other skull and hands it to another one, and then begins to chisel into the bones that it was already working on, seemingly ignoring it.
Can we ask questions of the ancient corpse?
He just handed that skull off to one of the other ones.
Oh, can we follow that guy?
Oh, you want to try and just follow him
Yeah.
into the tunnel? Yeah, he's going into a tunnel, but you can chase after him.
Oh,
So you like ask questions of one.
that's true, that's true.
I'll
Okay.
ask the librarian if I can ask questions of the second one then.
I almost answered in the skull
In the
voice.
skull voice.
Infidels.
He kind of waves his hand and he says,
I'm done helping, but if one of the other librarians wants to help you, I will not stop him. Or her.
I think it's better if
It.
I want to ask him, well, I just have a question for him. I'm not asking for his help really.
yeah, I mean, he's not ignoring you, he's
yeah.
just back into his work now. He answered Hunter's question.
Are the bones able to lie to us?
We'll find out. Oops, I just closed Eli's sheet. Oh well, hopefully I don't do that.
Eli, what's wrong?
Eli turns off.
But that memory really did number one.
Yeah.
Seriously. Next.
He says, yes, but few beyond the grave are motivated to continue lying. But I suppose depending on your relationship to the deceased, it is possible. They're under no compulsion to speak the truth.
I was going to suggest if we can get one more to help us, bring us the bones of one of these elven mages. Because they would know about the ritual.
That is true.
None of the moon sisters are dead, but they would be.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, like, this is all you. Like, I've asked my questions.
Alright.
So you
So,
want to kind of chase after the one that is already proceeding.
yeah, I'll see if I can stop him. Hey, hang on a second.
And it kind of
Stop that
turns its
skull.
yellow eyes, which blinked in the light that was cast on your shield.
Say, would you be willing to help us speak with this last skull?
And it creeps slowly back towards you. And it looks up at you and says,
And what would you be willing to offer for such a service?
What are you interested in?
it gestures down to
The bones?
the bones and says,
Knowledge received from the dead and carved upon their bones.
You know, in a few days' time, we're going to be contributing to the Store of Dead.
That is true.
We'll promise you the skull of Queen Exotic.
its eyes go quite wide.
From test ball to like basketball.
Yep. And it says,
Have I any assurance that this debt will be paid through?
and
The
then it
more
kind
you-
of thinks for a second, and then it says,
I suppose if you mean to confront the Queen of the UNT, we will either be receiving her bones or yours.
kind of looks at Thaddeus, since it can tell that you're not a fully living creature and probably don't have bones in you.
Well, we can promise at least one of those things then. Will that suffice?
Kind of examines Thaddeus, and Dawn is also in the room, and Bianca, those are the 3 living creatures that it can see. Though it kind of looks at Byakko and kind of shakes its head, knowingly almost, and then looks Dawn and Thaddeus up and down, notices the royal signet ring that Thaddeus has, and notices sort of probably a similar one on Dawn, and says,
Yes, yes. I should say that either your bones or the bones of the UAT queen would suffice.
and it turns around and brings the other skull back.
Is this is this the skull we want, or
No.
do we want to get a specific?
The one we wanted was one of those elven mages.
Okay. Could you fetch us the skull of an elven mage that was part of it, or
Who sabotaged the ritual.
yeah?
It kind of looks at you and shakes its head.
What's the closest thing you got?
I have a number of elven mages in our collection,
No, I don't think
but the
that.
ones that sabotage the ritual, they are not dead.
They're not dead.
No.
None of them are. Interesting.
Huh.
Any acquaintances of those mages?
Let's get the one he's holding.
Well,
Sorry, I'll amend what he says.
He says they're not dead, or they're not interred within our library of bones.
they didn't die here, so to speak. I see. Huh.
I need some water because that
Yeah, I
skull
bet.
voice
Sure.
Let me, I'm not in the room.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, the one he's got. is fine.
Unless there's a
Um,
more specific thing that we can still seek.
I don't know. Those between adored by our people, their adoration serves as a fuel for the ascension. Can we ask for somebody who was? No, that's too broad. I was gonna ask for somebody who adored the Elven Queen.
Was it?
If you asked for that, the librarian kind of just nods at the
skull that we
it's
have?
holding. Yep.
Well,
I mean, yeah. If we don't have access to the mages, then the next step would just be someone in the same time period that would,
yeah. I mean, this is as good as any.
This is as good as any, I think. I don't
The
know.
mages were our best lead, but I think this is
Right. This is just second. Okay, and then we have our set of questions that we're happy with.
Tell me if you're still happy with these. What do you know of the Raven Priest's Ascension? What do you know of vampires? I don't think that means.
I don't think we need that. I think maybe if we can ask more pointedly about the ritual specifics.
Yeah.
So not ascension, but what do you know about the ritual?
I'll put that in as a follow-up because we don't have to.
Or how did they sabotage?
Yeah.
So items that would use during the ritual specifically.
Yeah. What components would use in the ritual?
Yes.
Do we have I'll ask the librarian unless we know this already, but was the ritual like a big public event?
The librarian kind of shrugs.
Yeah.
Because if we have somebody who was at the ritual,
I've not personally spoken with the bones.
Well,
of
that's like our
those from
first
that
question.
time
It's like, what do you know the Raven Queen's Ascension? But we could ask in a more simplistic way of like, what was the Raven Queen's Ascension like? What was the Raven Queen's Ascension like? What components were used in it? What do you know of the Moon Sisters? Why were the Raven Queens never scattered, which you already know the answer to?
Mm-hmm.
Where was the largest temple here in your time? And then we need a fifth one now.
I would like to sabotage. I would like to ask them about the sabotage.
How specifically? Well, I mean, the point of this is to narrow down
We can always
search
Memories, yeah.
memory. So if you could build your questions in such a way that you can figure out what to look for.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is that we can always
That's
just
the whole
reserve
point.
the fifth one as an ad lib, I
Or
guess.
as a follow-up.
So I think these three questions: what was the Ascension like? What components were used in the ritual? In the Ascension ritual, I should say. What do you know of the Moon Sisters? Those are all possibly things that would lead us to the memory object, but we have two more to nail it down.
If you need follow-ups.
Yeah.
We can start with those.
Sorry, I
We
know
can-
Harmony's not around. But
Yeah, no, that's
we're all
fine. You can
straight.
message it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can lead with those.
Yeah, and just two for follow-ups.
I'm sitting on the floor in the memory room, next to the gong,
Mm-hmm.
and I keep
Thinking
looking at
about
it,
it.
but then I like stop myself, and instead I'm just playing with my pin.
Okay.
I assume sitting with Eli.
Yep, he'll sit down with you. He's actually clearly shaken by what he saw. You don't know if it's whatever personal memories he saw or
Like crybaby.
the UNT memory that he saw, but something shook him.
I'm telling him stories about growing up in my tribe to try and distract him from the bad stuff.
Well, just a charisma check.
Okay, that I can do.
1 plus.
1, 16.
Okay.
16.
There you go.
I mean, your stories seem to distract him enough that he cheers up a little bit. He's still being quiet, but he says, once you're done telling a couple stories to him, he says, "Thanks, Harmony. That really does help. When I stuck my hand in the pool, I saw that fight under the temple where Dahlia was killed.
I should have realized that.
And when we met Elise, my mother, as a ghost,
Yeah.
and it dredged up those memories, which I managed to put behind me by throwing myself into studying and trying to get better at my duties in the temple, but it just brought them all back to the front, and I was having trouble getting out of that mindset, but hearing your stories about your tribe, it really, I don't know, it helped. And, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to see your tribe someday. It sounds like an interesting place to be.
So would I, to be honest. I have no idea where they are right now. But
Maybe when all this is over, I can help you find them?
that'd be nice.
Kind of nods, and then looks down at his feet and goes back into thinking.
Look, I know that you don't want to remember, but I don't think that you should forget either. It was difficult but important, and for what it's worth, she was your sister. No matter what she did.
Yeah, that's what I keep coming back to. I just keep thinking, maybe there was a way to save her. I don't know. I couldn't have done it then, but I feel like I've grown quite a bit since then. Maybe I could have done something now. And you and Thaddeus have learned so much more magic and so many more prayers since back then.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
if
it's
you'd
not
come,
without our mistakes and regrets too.
I know, but maybe if you'd come as you are now, I just feel like things might have been different. And it's not like I'm putting the blame on you or anything. He kind of looks sheepish after he says that once. It's just something I think about.
There were a lot of things we could have done differently, but it's in the past. We can't change it. But you can remember it and you can learn from it. That's all we can do.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's just, it's hard to hold that perspective sometimes. I had a family and now I don't.
You have us.
He kind of raises his shoulders.
I don't really have a family right now either, so I understand.
It doesn't really help, but I guess misery loves company.
I'm sorry.
And he says, no, I'm sorry that your family's not around. It was insensitive of me to bring this up. We could stop talking about it.
This one time, and I go into another story, I put my head down on his shoulder as I talk.
Yeah, he seems because of your role. Yeah, he seems comforted. So, back in the other room, the other librarian begins to cast the same spell, beckoning the spirit of this long dead adorer of the being who would become the Raven Queen. And eventually it raises up and its jaw unhinges just like the other one, and it just kind of sits there emitting a low waiting for a question.
Alright.
Time.
Well, what was the Raven Queen's ascension like?
It was sudden and terrible. Something went wrong, and many died. I was one of them.
What components were used in the Ascension ritual?
The skull floats there for a second and says,
I don't know. Only the closest followers were allowed to know. And the Queen's memories were scattered after the ritual.
Which we knew.
I guess it wouldn't know that, and it can't know things it didn't know in life, so it doesn't say that. But
But we kind of.
Backtrack.
What do you know of the Moon Sisters?
There were 8 sisters, elven sisters, queens, each of them. Some of them got along, others didn't. Among them was my queen, and she brought all of them into godhood, or at least that was the plan.
We could maybe ask the specifics of its death. If that's how it died, because of the ritual. Maybe we can glean some insight from that.
What's the name of the skull?
Or some names of close followers. If that would help, I don't know.
Or an item the Raven Queen character in life.
Yeah, maybe like if you have the
Yeah. What was the Raven Queen's fondest possession?
hold on, let me look at something real quick. Notes. Let's see.
Inasahe was a wise queen, but she did not cling much to mortal possessions. The thing that she treasured above all were her people.
So I wondered. Well, go ahead. No, let's finish this and I'm I have another thought.
Well, I mean,
How many more questions do you have?
one,
Just
and
one?
it's whack. Like, I don't have any follow-up.
I think maybe asking about the specifics of his death, or his or her death.
Wait,
It hasn't said.
wait. The reason we're looking for a memory of the Raven Queen is it's supposed to give us a clue to defeat Alkeen.
No, that's not why.
Why are we looking for it?
So that Alkin doesn't get his hands on it.
Why would he want it? What's his connection to the Raven?
He wants to become a god. And so he wants to know how the ritual works.
Or so Asanahan fears, anyway.
Yeah,
I see. Okay.
this is, I'm telling you what I was thinking.
I know, that's why I'm trying to remember, because I thought, do they have some kind of a connection? But
No, they're not really.
So we could either ask about the ancient city, in my opinion, or we could ask about the specifics of its death, and maybe glean insight from how the ritual went bad and what happened to the people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask that. What did it look like when the ritual failed?
A pulse went out from the location where the ritual was performed. And those of us who were lending the power of our souls to the ritual died instantly. The last thing I saw was a wave of energy rushing towards me down the streets. And then all was blackness.
And then the jaw closes back up, and it wavers in the air and drops to the ground. But just before it hits the ground, the librarian catches it, tucks it under its shoulder, and it looks to Thaddeus and Dawn and says,
The Medusa's bones were yours.
and it
Before it And
climbs
say,
up
oh, I was
and
gonna
goes
say,
into.
before it leaves,
Well, there's others in the room.
I was gonna ask if we could take that skull and then dip our hand inside.
I had the same thought.
So I have two things, although we're coming to one done.
Yep.
One is I want to go back to the memory room and hold the bell.
Okay.
And put my hand in the water.
Oh, interesting.
Because this was given to me by the Raven.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's do that then. So,
Okay.
Sort of
I
having
don't
go
know
exhausted.
if
back
this
and
whole
sort
thing
of-
would work though, because
I don't know either.
well, you
it's not.
talked to them and they
It's not
didn't
hers.
know.
Yeah, but
Right.
she cherishes her people.
I know, but
Yeah.
it's,
So let's try that first.
it is an item that has the
Yeah.
memory of what happened in the ritual, and that particular skull didn't know what happened.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
Mhm.
Anyway,
try that.
So you make your
Okay,
way back
Daddy.
into the room and you see Harmony and Eli kind of seated at the edge of the pool. Eli with his knees kind of tucked up to his chest,
And then Mara.
with Harmony kneeling, or not kneeling, leaning sort of on
I
his
like
shoulder.
straighten up really
I expect
quick.
Mara found a shovel and was like shoveling.
Yeah, she's at the top of one of the piles, and you can see that Pinky is standing up on 2 feet on her shoulder. Basically. She's crafted a tiny paper hat for him out of her paper hat,
Oh, that's adorable.
and she's just like shoveling things out of the way.
I expect you to be
I
like an open
straightened
head
up
to see the rain or something.
When they come down, like Mom and Dad just came to the room. We're
Then
doing
Eli kind of starts and turns around and stands up
And then
himself.
I just like.
He said I could have it. I point to the pin of the silver dragon.
Looks
I asked
Looks at
permission.
What
secret.
about the gong?
The gong's just sitting there
Okay.
next to the door.
Looks at secret.
He said I could have it.
Secret kind of like looks back at you, rolls the eyes, and shrugs. Like, what do I care?
We're gonna need more hands. Walks up.
Yeah, so Thaddeus, you kneel by the pool and again dip your hand in while holding the bell.
Yeah.
First, you see a flash from your memory, a different strong emotion.
Mhm.
What would it be? It could be something that is from your backstory, something
Yeah.
that has been in this campaign.
I'm trying to think of something that hasn't been in this campaign because it feels like a useful place to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Strong emotion, huh?
Mhm.
Wow, I just came up with something really sad. I think that it is. I think Thaddeus remembers the time that he was on his patrol after, like after his post-grad thing. He's like
Right.
doing
You
this
go out in the world.
and try to like. I think he finds a dead girl who has been just like ripped to shreds
Just like out in the woods or on the side of a road.
out in the woods, and is looking through her things to try and figure out what killed her so he can avenge it. And like goes through her belongings and finds an old beaten copy of Gregorian Harwood novel.
Oh.
And looks at it and nods and says, and just like starts to close eyes, just like starts to say a prayer of vengeance. And then he puts the book away.
Yeah, and then that memory fades away, and a new vision flashes before you. But it's not a memory so much as it is just you see a different version of this room from a different time. There's less objects piled around. It's like they're just starting to collect almost. A few ravens fly in and out, and you see one of those librarians crawling across the ceiling. So things are business as usual, but it is clearly this room from a different time. And you can see, because the piles are so drastically decreased, at the very far end of the room, there is a archway, a doorway, that in your time when you entered this room would have been piled over with stuff, so you couldn't have seen it unless you were digging through that specific pile. And you hear echoing from that archway the sound of a bell, and then your vision returns to you, and you're back in the room in the present time with your party. And I think that's where we will.
I'm like
end
holding
today's
on to
episode.
you so that you don't fall in the water this time. Are you wearing
Basketball
like a
into
cape
this
or a
episode.
cloak or something?
We've added like 5 pyramids.
What's he wearing? I don't think so. Well, unless he is. I don't remember what his clothes look like.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna be holding you by the
Yeah.
cape. Sorry.
Could hold on to him by like the shield on his back or something
Yeah.
like that. So that was
Counterbalancing his way with
the Library of Memories and Bones, or Bones and Memories,
cool.
one of those two. Yeah. We will be back next week, Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific time, to continue this right from that point. We will have Melissa back to play Mara, which will be great. Though I think I did okay, personally.
I think that's how she would have spent
Yes.
the episode.
And we'll see actually what Mara managed to dig up when she's back here.
Yeah, there you
Give
go.
her a couple
Yeah.
chances to roll.
Yeah, sure.
Sounds
That's
good.
good.
Yeah, hope to see you back. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.